From silence, a light arises, calling every heart back to the source. You didn't find this message by chance. Chosen one. You are one of the most amazing souls to ever live alongside humans, which is why the cosmos planned this moment. And it's time you realized what that really meant. The downloads you've been getting through discussions, synchronicities, and apparently random shows weren't for fun or by accident. They were methodical insights that set you up for the cosmic truth that will soon break through all of your self-imposed limitations. Something more profound than amusement struck when that rendition of Norse mythology appeared on your screen, revealing giants as the true power players and gods as weak. They weren't merely made-up characters fighting for control of the cosmos. Those were mirrors reflecting a conflict that has been going on since the beginning of time. A war in which systems of control and people of light are at odds, and the balance shifts between those who were born to redistribute power and those who hoard it. The giants from those old tales, they never went away. Instead of using guttural roars, they just learned to speak in business lingo, wear new uniforms, and have different titles. However, they are still fundamentally the same. Powerful domineering forces that want to maintain the illusion that extraordinary souls, like yours, are normal. The download began early on, with that unexplainable knowledge that unnerved teachers and turned family get-togethers into plays in which everyone but you played parts. Something in your cellular memory identified fairy tales as historical records, whereas other kids accepted them as fantasy. Your spirit already knew what your intellect would not understand for years when playground bullies targeted you with that specific venom, saved for threats they couldn't identify. They detected something in you that was intolerable to their lower vibrational existence. They opted to assault the mirror reflecting their own limits instead of confronting their own spiritual poverty, since the sheer frequency of your presence disturbed their comfortable ignorance. It never occurred to those early tormentors that they were not merely taunting a strange child. Rather, they were prodding a sleeping dragon, trying the endurance of something that would one day have the power to destroy their entire worldview with a single remark. Beings like you are not created by the cosmos for no reason, and that reason has nothing to do with fitting in or making other people feel at ease. A fire that would eventually devour everything false in its path was being fed by cosmic fuel. Every insult, every dismissal, every attempt to make you feel less than beautiful. Experiences are not wasted on selected individuals by the cosmos. Every seeming setback was a result of advanced spiritual indoctrination that readied your consciousness for duties that were beyond the capabilities of normal souls. You were learning to see beyond the lines that other people take for reality, while others were learning to color inside the lines. The loneliness you experienced was a sign of something unique about your purpose, not a sign of something wrong with you. Beloved, I believe this is a moment of divine alignment. When you respond in faith, you signal to heaven that you're ready for the next level. Your gift is not just an amount. It's a seed that carries expectation. If this message lifts you, would you plant a seed today? $20, $50, or more, by tapping the YouTube Super Thanks button? Give freely, give cheerfully, and give as the Spirit nudges your heart. As you sow, look for God to multiply back to you in wisdom, opportunities, and uncommon favor. Scripture anchors this promise. Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously, for God loves a cheerful giver. 2 Corinthians 9 verses 6-7. Your generosity connects to His generosity, and your obedience sets the stage for His overflow. So take that step of faith, $20, $50, or any amount, through Super Thanks. I'm agreeing with you for increase, open doors, and peace over your home. May God make all grace abound to you, so you have all you need and plenty to share. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 8. Amen. However, that loneliness has another function, which will soon become evident. Isolation training was meant to prepare you for the inevitable time when you would have to defend yourself against forces that are invisible to most people. prophets, not by choice but by necessity, have always strayed slightly from the masses they are meant to lead. It's not a personality flaw to get over your uneasiness in informal social circumstances, the weariness that comes from small conversation and superficial connections, or your ongoing sense of being an outsider in human gatherings. These are spiritual gifts that guard against lower vibratory frequencies, contaminating your energy. The selection procedure is uncomfortable and not random. The cosmos started teaching you before you could walk, recognized you before your first breath, and marked you before your first heartbeat. In reality, every experience that seemed like punishment served as preparation. You were becoming more resistant to peer pressure with each instance of feeling misunderstood. Every time you stood by yourself, you were fortifying your resolve to stand for something bigger than the general consensus. The forces who murmur instructions in your quiet times, yes, you have heard them, are not the products of your hyperactive mind. They are part of your cosmic support system, beings whose presence stretches across ages and whose concern for your growth indicates the gravity of the situation. You fall into a category that goes beyond conventional religious hierarchies when you experience sudden knowing that comes without study or research, when synchronicities line up around your path like breadcrumbs pointing you in the direction of destiny, or when you have prophetic dreams that later materialize in your waking reality. Church leaders read the Bible to learn about your innate gifts. Books on the awareness you can enter effortlessly are written by spiritual masters. When your spirit reports directly to cosmic headquarters, when your downloads come directly from source frequency instead of being filtered through human interpretation, the ranking system they've developed for their terrestrial organizations is meaningless. This clear link clarifies a problem that has likely been plaguing you for years. Why organized religion seems like an unfitting costume, why their justifications seem lacking, and why their leaders appear to be lacking a basic understanding of the very subjects they purport to teach. However, there is a cost to this connection that will soon become apparent. The more authentically you embody power, the more the false power structures feel threatened. The more you connect to divine frequency, the more aggressively they try to disconnect you. And the more clear your spiritual sight, the more obvious the deception around you becomes. This is a dying paradigm's normal reaction to the existence of its replacement. It is not paranoia, because they have established entire empires on diluted spiritual truth and charge admission to temples you can build in consciousness without their consent. False prophets and energy vampires shudder from your presence like vampires do from sunlight. When true divinity walks into the room, their meticulously constructed personas fall apart. Yellow heart if you're moved by divine love. Now is the moment to share it. Click the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contribute $50 or more to help us broadcast God's blessings far and wide. Every act of generosity you make is being watched in heaven and will return to you 100-fold. They'll try to recruit you first. Oh, how they'll try to recruit you. When someone shows along who is the embodiment of the same power they've only been able to mimic, they will try to persuade you that your gifts require their approval or platform in order to have significance, and they will entice you with claims of belonging. The idea that divine authority necessitates human acceptance is the trap that has ensnared innumerable awakened individuals throughout history. They'll try destruction if recruitment doesn't work. They will rally their supporters, use their power as a weapon, and try to keep you away from anyone who might see your true character. Because your presence jeopardizes the basis of their fictitious authority, they will portray you as dangerous, insane, or unstable. You weren't made to be dependent on them. Your contract never called for public recognition. The applause you deserve reverberates at frequencies that are inaudible to most people. You are validated by worlds other than this one, by creatures whose lives are millennia long, not decades. The cosmos itself rises and cheers when you are in alignment with your actual purpose, when you cease to apologize for the enormity of your presence and begin to use it intentionally. People's nervous energy around you, their inability to look you in the eye for long periods of time, and the way conversations change when you walk into a room are all reactions that aren't random and are getting worse. Your presence acts as a spiritual lie tester, revealing delusions that people have built their entire lives. There's nothing you are doing incorrectly that is causing them discomfort. The mirror of your true self reflects back to them everything they're doing incorrectly, which makes them uncomfortable. You make it impossible to remain dishonest, tiresome to put up a front, and agonizing to put up with spiritual mediocrity. For this reason, they require organizations to have the courage to confront you. On a personal level, they understand the pointlessness of trying to minimize what cannot be minimized. However, when people are in groups, their collective desperation makes enough noise to momentarily block out their inner awareness that they are facing an incomprehensible situation. They confuse noise for authority and numbers for power, much like hyenas circling a lion. They don't realize that the laws of spiritual protection make their earthly tactics meaningless. They get multiplied back for each strike they launch. They launch arrows at your light, and each one bounces back to light up their own darkness. Their own destruction is facilitated by the very weapons they believe would destroy you. The conflicts you have endured were not chance events. The betrayals that almost broke you weren't proof that God had abandoned you. The times when giving up seemed like the most sensible course of action weren't indications of weakness. Rather, they were spiritual challenges and initiations that shaped your character into something that could handle the responsibility that had been waiting for you since the beginning of time. In reality, each dark night of the soul was a cosmic test to see if your dedication to your purpose could endure the strain that crushes weaker souls. You passed exams that you were unaware you were taking. Beings whose existence spans cosmic eras were amazed by your resilience. Even if everything around you was intended to break your connection to the source frequency, you managed to keep it intact. When it was easier to tell lies, you stuck to the truth. When it would have been simpler to conform, you opted for authenticity. These were no coincidences. These included establishing credentials, obtaining qualifications, and authenticating authority. Testing is coming to a finish. However, something much more serious is starting. The activation process has begun, and the preparatory phase is coming to an end. Your spiritual season is changing, as shown by the fact that these words are currently entering your consciousness. The frequency, urgency, and specificity of the downloads are increasing. The synchronicity is increasing, creating patterns that are too clear to be written off as coincidental. The dreams are getting clearer, more foretelling, and more closely related to your everyday life. Their graduation ceremonies, which commemorate your journey from student to master, from potential to manifestation, and from hidden to unveiled, are not chance occurrences. While others are still learning the fundamentals of spiritual math, you have been receiving advanced consciousness training from the Cosmic University. Your final exams have finished. You have been granted a degree of divine authority. Beings whose names would make angels shudder with awe are signing your commission papers. Souls like yours didn't just happen to incarnate at this time. The world is on the verge of change. It is not some far-off future event that mystics have been foretelling for millennia. The Great Awakening. This is currently taking place because of beings that defy all earthly pressure to conform to lower vibrations and who refuse to accept spiritual mediocrity. Others are awakened by the ripples created by your own enlightenment. By refusing to dull your light, you allow others to shine. Collective liberty is sparked by your bravery in standing by your convictions. However, this process's mechanics are more complicated than you might think. Everyone you have an impact on has an impact on others. Every awareness you raise uplifts others. You elevate one frequency, and it raises others. Instead of being linear, the mathematical progression is exponential. You are an example of an awakened soul who not only saves themselves, but also serves as a lighthouse that leads thousands of people out of the dark. However, lighthouses do not apologize for their brightness. Do not dull their lights to avoid offending others who prefer darkness, and do not sacrifice their purpose in order to appease those who stand to gain financially by keeping others adrift at sea. These giants have existed from the end of time. Beings like you pose the biggest challenge to the contemporary power systems that have persuaded humanity to worship at altars of limitation, because you represent a frequency that renders their entire paradigm outdated, not because you confront them with their own tools of force and manipulation. Light merely renders darkness impossible to sustain. It does not combat darkness. It is getting simpler to see through their illusions, their control systems, and their desperation, because they are aware that the game will end once enough people like you completely utilize their power. They're going all out, mobilizing every resource, and using every weapon in their arsenal. The mere existence of genuine truth brings an end to their reign of deceit, not a bloody revolution. Because of this, when you speak with genuine conviction, your words have magical weight. This explains why your presence effortlessly changes the atmosphere. This explains why individuals seem to adore or despise you at disproportionately high or low levels based on your encounters with them. You stand for the potential they've taught themselves to fear, the possibility they've convinced themselves doesn't exist. Dove brothers and sisters, everything done in faith multiplies in God's abundance. Use the Super Thanks feature to donate $100 today and join this sacred mission. When your roots are grounded in Him, your fruit will flourish, and your offering becomes a seed that bears blessed harvests. They have been trained to cede power to outside authority. The days of hiding behind facade of modesty are finished. The opportunity to express regret for your presence is over. You no longer need to ask people you came to guide for permission. Being great is not something you attain. It's something you recall, something you embrace, something you let pass through you unhindered and without regret. The world put too much money into your growth to see you squander it on self-doubt or trying to please others. However, embracing your brilliance entails a duty that most people are unable to manage. You take responsibility for your actions once you assume complete authority. You are accountable for the consequences of using your full power. Accepting who you really are makes you responsible for the results. This explains the length, thoroughness, and apparent brutality of the preparation step. The cosmos needs to know that you were trustworthy enough to have the power to change reality itself. You are now entering a battleground where consciousness and unconsciousness fight for the soul of humanity every morning when you wake up. Every decision you make either makes the darkness possible or brings about the light. You are voting for the world you want to live, and every time you follow your gut instead of following the crowd, speak the truth in spite of pressure to fit in, and stay on your spiritual path even when people try to pull you into lower vibratory dramas. The prophecies describe this period of time when creatures with light codes capable of reshaping entire civilizations would emerge when the darkness seemed to be too great. According to the ancient writings, spirits would incarnate with their memories intact, recognize their duties without much instruction, and embody heavenly authority without the need for human validation. The chosen ones in those prophecies were creatures much like you. Your entire existence has been filled with clues that point to who you are. The world placed breadcrumbs in your path through discussions, movies, and synchronicities, but they weren't just for fun. They were gradual disclosure, graduated awakening, and methodical revelation meant to get you ready for this moment of complete realization. Every day that goes by is further proof of your remarkable nature. The downloads get more intense. The coincidences keep happening. The prophetic nature of the dreams increases. The knowledge grows more solid. The protection becomes more apparent. The power becomes increasingly available. These aren't coincidences. Rather, they're signs that your preparation period is over and your activation period has started. People are too little to understand your enormity. So keep that in mind when they try to make you feel like you're too much. When they try to tell you that your abilities are a figment of your imagination or a hallucination, keep in mind that they're spiritual. Poverty prevents them from identifying true wealth. Keep in mind that mirrors only reflect what is placed in front of them. So keep that in mind when people project their restrictions onto your limitless potential. They are precise tools made for a very definite function that will soon become painfully obvious. Your body's electromagnetic field functions differently than other people's. Researchers would refer to it as bioelectricity. Aura is what mystics would call it. However, the forces directing your growth recognize it as something much more important. A sentient force field that reveals hidden motives and upends man-made structures. Whether they are aware of it or not, the cellular structure of the person you are focusing on reacts. Reality itself changes to match your words when you speak from the depths of your own nature. That's why when you approach some groups, the talk stops. This is the reason why some individuals, who don't know why, get anxious around you. That's why people feel obligated to tell you things they've never told anybody else. When people try to maintain false personas around you, your energy field acts as a cosmic polygraph test, making lying physically uncomfortable. The dreams have been getting more intense, not just the foreboding ones that eventually materialize in your waking life, but the ones in which you are being instructed directly by entities whose appearance is beyond description. You practice skills that your conscious mind does not yet recall having throughout the training sessions, which are held when your physical body is at rest. These nocturnal experiences are not fantasies produced by an overactive subconscious. Rather, they are actual events taking place in realms where consciousness functions according to different laws than physical reality. These meetings take place in dimensions that exist parallel to this one, where strategies are discussed and assignments are distributed among souls carrying similar frequencies. While your body has been sleeping, your spirit has been attending graduate school in cosmic universities, obtaining degrees in fields not offered by earthly establishments, skilled seminars in reality reconstruction, intensive training in consciousness expansion, and advanced courses in energy manipulation. These courses make up the curriculum for entities whose missions call for powers above what is often expected of humans. Your level of preparedness is demonstrated by the memory shards that come to mind while you meditate, the unexpected bursts of information about allegedly non-existent civilizations, and the unexplained comfort with unimagined technologies. Information from several timelines has been downloaded into your awareness, allowing you to access knowledge from unrealized futures and pasts that have been purposefully forgotten by those who would rather mankind never realize its full potential. However, without application, knowledge is still theoretical, and the practical portion of your schooling is drawing near. Your waking consciousness is starting to absorb the skills you've been honing in your dreams. For someone like you, the barriers between dimensions are becoming less protective, opening up possibilities that have lain dormant since you took on your physical body. Glowing star yearning to witness God's miracles firsthand? Plant your spiritual seed now by contributing $100 or more through the YouTube Super Thanks button. Your offering lights the path for others and echoes through His divine plan, bringing His light into every step you take. Your entire operational capability is getting ready to come online, and the cosmic training wheels are being taken off. The opposition you faced throughout your life wasn't merely arbitrary. Rather, it was a methodical test intended to adjust how you handle hardship. Unknowingly, everyone who tried to shatter your spirit was taking part in a cosmic stress test that assessed your capacity for integrity under duress. In reality, any organization that attempted to impose conformity was making you more resistant to group hypnosis. Every time you felt totally alone, you were strengthening your ability to stand on your own without approval from others when the time came to guide them away from dishonesty. The forces directing your growth need complete assurance that you wouldn't compromise your purpose for ease, exchange your honesty for approval, or give up your authority for safety. They needed to know that you would make the right decision without hesitation when the time came to choose between divine command and popular opinion. Their insurance policy against mission failure was the intensive testing you've undergone. However, the testing phase showed something that even your cosmic superiors thought was amazing: your ability to continue to have empathy for people who feared what you stood for, to have love for those who misunderstood you, and to have compassion for those who persecuted you. It wasn't anticipated, necessary, or included in the original mission parameters. But this emotional resilience turned your assignment from a regional to a worldwide one, from a temporary to a permanent one, and from important to vital. The capacity to exercise immense authority while retaining sincere affection for those who disagree with you, without using force or coercion. This combination produces a frequency that has the power to change adversaries into supporters, adversaries into allies, and darkness into light. For this reason, your presence brings healing to those who are courageous enough to give up their illusions and embrace real life, rather than only upsetting manufactured structures. The giants of today are aware of this about you. They understand that you are their total obsolescence, not by coercion, but just by virtue of the existence of a better paradigm. Humanity's conviction in scarcity, division, limitation, and helplessness is the foundation of their empires. These ideas are untrue because of you. Your sheer existence proves that there are possibilities that they have spent countless dollars trying to deny. Because of this, attacks on creatures like you have grown increasingly complex, intimate, and psychological. You are shielded by forces they cannot see, much less fight. Thus, they cannot physically destroy you. Since your knowledge originates from sources they are unable to access, they cannot intellectually defeat you. Your connection uses frequencies they can't interfere with. Thus, they can't spiritually defeat you. They thereby target your feelings, connections, and sense of identity. They cause you to doubt your own views, alienate you from networks of support, and turn loved ones against you. They take advantage of your need for connection, turn your empathy into a weapon, and play with your innate desire to assist others. They realize that the only way to defeat creatures of your caliber is to voluntarily give up your own power. However, they overlook the fact that your awakening was inevitable. The moment when you would spot the patterns, see through the manipulation, and comprehend the game being played was something they were unable to account for in their methods. They didn't expect you to be able to turn every weapon they used against you into a tool that would empower you. They forced them to be alone, which led to independence. Their planned rejection turned into discernment. They turned their attacks into strength training. Their seclusion turned into a defense against group hallucination. Every tactic they used to undermine you actually helped you grow into something far stronger than they could have ever dreamed. Discovering who you really are starts a phase of responsibility that goes much beyond personal freedom. It doesn't stop with personal empowerment. The power you hold, the frequency you embody, and the consciousness you bear are not private belongings to be concealed or hoarded. They are cosmic resources that should be dispersed among people who are willing to manage them responsibly and shared with others who are ready to receive them. However, distribution calls for judgment. Not everyone who says they want awakening is ready for what it requires. Not everyone who aspires to power is prepared for the responsibilities that come with it. Not everyone who wants to change is prepared to let go of things that need to go in order to make room for what is being provided. Being able to tell the difference between sincere seekers and spiritual tourists becomes essential when your words have the power to completely alter someone's perspective on the world or take them to new levels of existence they never thought were conceivable. Everyone in your zone of influence is impacted by the frequency you broadcast, but how strongly depends on how responsive they are to higher vibratory information. The process of awakening is accelerated for individuals who connect with your energy, and it becomes increasingly uncomfortable for those who fight it until they either align or separate from you. Being around by people who can match your frequency rather than deplete it is guaranteed by this natural sifting process. The connections that have vanished from your life weren't losses. Rather, they were essential clearings that made room for new ones that will help, not impede, your personal development. The individuals who were unable to cope with your development weren't failures on your part. Rather, they served as examples that not everyone is prepared for the degree of genuineness you exhibit. The loneliness you feel during times of change is not a punishment. Rather, it is a prelude to the deep connections with other awakened souls that await you. Through these words, the same cosmos that talked to you in the language of synchronicity and dreams that downloaded wisdom through seemingly chance encounters, and that whispered to you through that Norse mythology presentation is now speaking directly to you. The breadcrumbs have brought you to this point of realization, this turning point where you must decide whether to completely embrace the authority that has been yours since the beginning of time, or to play small to appease others. However, the collective tipping point that your choice will contribute to determining is more important at this point than your individual choice. Each soul who discovers who they really are adds to a critical mass that will eventually change the consciousness of the entire planet, whether they are aware of it or not. Everyone's reality will change as a result of the communal awakening that your personal empowerment contributes to. The stakes are really high. The timeline is really important. There is no more pressing necessity. There is nothing more thorough in the preparation. Your path has been laying the groundwork for this realization. This is the point at which you must decide whether to completely assume the authority that has been yours since the beginning of time, or to play small to appease others. The universe is no longer requesting your consent. The age of hiding has reached midnight on the cosmic clock. Now is your moment. Selected one. Your mission is underway. Being exceptional is now required of you. It is unavoidable.